Excellent. All right, guys. I'm Wayne, and this is Garth.
Game
We're
on.
gonna talk about some movies.
Fuck yeah, man. I'm excited about this episode.
Yeah. So I'm your host, Jacob Mastro, and I'm joined by my very good friend and co-host Keaton Byer. Hello, Keaton.
Game on, man. Game
We
on.
are not, in fact, Wayne and Garth.
No, I wish though. That would be sick. Yeah, we're doing Wayne's World this week, and it's gonna be awesome.
Wayne's World.
That's Mike Myers and Dana Carvey singing that too, which is so excellent.
Yeah, it is, which is hilarious.
So good. It's so because they give her right. They're good.
Yeah.
Mike's giving her more than Dana. I almost called him Garth.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like he is not that notable for having done much else.
Who?
Dana Carvey.
That's not true. I think to our generation, yeah, I think so because he's like film presence, and he was mostly off TV by the time that we were kind of around. But I think to people a little older than us, he's like, his TV stuff is huge because he was SNL mainstay.
Right. Yeah. I guess.
And his George Brett Bush impression is legendary, right?
Oh right. Yeah. I think I remember that. Yeah.
But yeah, he's definitely not like Mike Myers went on to become a film star. Not necessarily that many of his films are actually any good, but we'll get into all
Mike
that.
Myers?
Yeah.
Well, there's a couple key ones though.
Yeah, we'll get into all
I mean, Wayne's World, Austin Powers, and Shrek are obviously seen those so many times, right?
Shrek is his life's best work.
Yeah.
Just because of how good Shrek is, but that's also because that's less attributable to him,
Mm-hmm.
Because his best film is probably Wayne's World, but I don't know. Well, Austin Powers is good, but all three of them are not made equally.
I don't know. I haven't seen I saw the first one a little while ago, and I thought it was still hilarious to me.
The first two, I think, are still pretty funny. Although, again, they're kind of old, so same with this movie.
Yeah, we actually talked about Austin Powers a bit in the James Bond episode.
Yeah, I think we did. Yeah,
just because it was so relevant.
Because it's so perfect. It's the best. Fucking
best
one-for-one parody ever. Other than Walk Hard.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah. Let's actually get into the episode because we're just kind of
we're just talking about Mike Myers now.
Gushing a little bit about Mike Myers, even though again I'm not the biggest Mike Myers fan. It's I have a weird relationship with him.
Okay.
but anyway, this week we're going to talk about as we always do, basic stuff. And our initial.
Well, we're going to talk about the genesis.
Exactly. And then next week, obviously, we'll get into more kind of actual production of the film. So if you know this film and there's something you know about this film and we don't mention it this week, chances are we're going to talk about it next week.
Exactly.
Because we're doing a lot of stuff because this is a very it's a cult movie, obviously. So there's a lot of stuff out there.
It's a fucking classic.
It is a classic. It really is. I watched it again today.
Oh yeah. It's so good.
It's
so entertaining. I watched it on my own and I laughed out loud.
Absolutely, many times. Yeah.
Yeah.
There is also
so
kind
good.
of a cloud of beef around this movie. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
I am aware of this. Yes. Between Penelope Spheris, the director, and Mike Myers, basically.
Yeah,
right?
and then also kind of Mike Myers and Dana Carvey sort of fell out after this movie, allegedly. But
okay.
I say allegedly. I know a lot about it, but we'll get in. That's kind of that's the story.
Okay.
That's what the public narrative is. But we'll get into all that kind of next week because obviously that's a little bit more after the film. So we won't really kind of address any of that this week.
Okay, cool. It's time to summarize.
It's time to summarize what happened in this movie.
All right, let's see. Let me focus.
It's your turn this week for real. This is gonna be a fun one, I think. There's a lot of
I don't think it's that hard. Not a lot
but
actually happens.
No, it's straightforward.
This movie is mainly just the plot is just scaffolding to put to support the jokes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like any sketch-based film, it's just a series of sketches, really. That.
Yeah, but then they kind of come towards a
plot.
Conclusion. Yeah.
Well,
I mean, there's a good villain in the movie.
Yeah, and the conclusion. Anyway, let's do the summary.
All right, cool.
Let me just pull up a timer for you here. All right, 3, 2, 1, begin.
Okay, so we got these two guys, Wayne and Garth, who are like metalheads who do this cable access show in Aurora, Illinois. And I'm not going to explain what cable access show because it doesn't exist anymore. But anyway, like,
I'm sure we'll talk
basically, they are like kind of like not going anywhere in life. And they just love metal and partying. And then some fucking big ass like executive marketing guy is like, oh, I gotta turn these guys cable access show into like, you know, big money. And this guy's Rob Lowe. He's like he's bad news. So he offers him a bunch of money to like, you know, sell out. And so then he tries to like, you know, turn their show into like an ad and shit, and you know, they're not down. And then meanwhile, like Wayne is like met this girl Cassandra who's in this band called Crucial Taunt, which is a sick band, great name. And then, so they basically like start dating, but then like Benjamin is also like just because he's just so evil, you know, he tries to ruin that too. And then sort of there's a bunch of funny sketches, and we just kind of learn about the world of Wayne and Garth, and it's hilarious. And then we kind of get and it kind of comes to a head where like basically there's this Alice Cooper concert that they go to, and meanwhile oh wait, no, yeah, because they fuck up the show, right?
Well,
yeah, they go to the Alice Cooper concert. Meanwhile, like fucking Benjamin is like trying to put the moves on Cassandra, and then they come back after the show, after the Alice Cooper show, and then they do their Wayne's World recording in like the big studio, and then you know Wayne doesn't want to compromise on like, you know, his artistic integrity, and so then the show gets canceled basically, and then they try to destroy the show, and then they're like, oh fuck Benjamin and shit, he's trying to fucking wreck us. And so now we gotta somehow, because he's not really trying to be like, because he's also trying to like bring Cassandra's band to like be like, get like a record deal or something to shoot a video or some shit. And like they're like, well we saw this guy at the Alice Cooper concert who's like driving this, trying to sign people to record deals, and he's like, well let's try to get Cassandra's band signed to this record deal. So they come up with this weird plan where they're gonna like basically beam Wayne's World into this guy's car, the show, and then they can like, so he can see it, and then he's gonna like think that Crucial Taunt is so good that he has to sign them. And so anyway, they do that, and then we're not sure what happens because the ending is very confusing.
Are you gonna go into how it's confusing?
Yeah, so they do like 4 different endings, like the bad ending, like the good ending, the Scooby-Doo ending, etc. And that's basically it. Like, once again, not a lot actually happens.
Yeah.
There's like a brief like period in the middle where like, you know, Wayne and Garth are like not getting along, but then that's quickly resolved.
Like literally instantly.
Yeah. And like, you know, also some like drama between Wayne and Cassandra, but then that also gets resolved.
Yeah, a minute left. So, but you're pretty much.
And then we kind of figure out that like Benjamin's a dick, and you know, he's just a fucking asshole. But yeah,
there you go.
He's just the worst throughout the entire movie.
Yeah, he's just a fucking douche the whole time. But yeah,
exactly.
You did it with a minute to spare. Well done.
Yeah. But it's like, so yeah, I don't think the summary really does justice to like how, you know, really what's going on in the movie.
No, but as you were doing it like that, when you laid it out like that, it is a good plot line. You know, it's pretty
basic, but like, yeah.
But yeah, it's not like so wild. It's not wildly stupid. You know.
No, it isn't.
Like some of the like plot lines of comedy films that like are kind of throwaway plot lines just to let the comedy happen are just stupid, right? But like, it's actually kind of, you know, a believable plot line to an extent, obviously. But like,
yeah, exactly.
You know, cable access show. So now that you're off the clock, do you want to describe cable access?
What
public access cable?
Public access television?
Yeah.
Well, I guess I mean, I guess it technically probably does still exist.
I think it does. Yeah, I think it does.
But I guess people don't watch it that much because now the internet does the same thing,
the
essentially.
Same thing, but better and easier.
Yeah, because I was joking to you before we did this episode. It's like, if this movie were made now, Wayne would have like a YouTube channel.
Yeah, or like a Twitch channel or something.
Yeah, exactly. He would be on Twitch or whatever.
Yeah,
what would he be doing?
Probably the same shit though. Really, like think about it. Like, he probably wouldn't have like the guests. Probably.
Yeah.
But like
no, he'd still have the guests.
They'd probably be like other Twitch streamers, but like they'd be
right,
like
yeah.
They'd be like heavy metal Twitch streamers or something.
But yeah, what was I gonna say? But yeah, it was like anyway, public access was basically this weird like thing where like, you know, basically fucking random people would just get to make TV shows.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And you'd be able to like, you know, get it like local television, like so for example in Aurora, Illinois here, right? Like people will be able to tune into Wayne's World because it's like local. They were like the local thing in Aurora, Illinois.
Yeah, it's awesome. Public access is awesome. I think there are some.
So yeah, like once again, like now, like obviously YouTube and Twitch and shit like that is like, I guess the modern version of that in a way.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the
but
equivalent.
It was an interesting time.
Yeah, it's an interesting comparison. Wayne is definitely the YouTube star of his.
Sorry.
He's the YouTube star of his day.
Exactly. Although much more local, like.
Yeah, definitely more localized, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good shit.
Yeah, so do you want to get into some initial thoughts? Obviously, we both like this movie.
Dude, this movie's so fucking good.
It's excellent. It's excellent.
Let's get a car. You hear that?
No, I can't
car.
Hear it. Car!
Game on! Sorry, what was I going to say? Yeah, like, I thought it was good. I think there were, like, some of the plot in the middle was kind of, like, you know, maybe weak. Not that well thought out.
Yeah, there's a few, like, I don't want to call them lull moments because they're still pretty funny, but it definitely slows down. Like, it definitely slows down for a couple moments there, like, in the middle.
But, like, I would say, like, the first 20 minutes of the movie, like, where we're being introduced to the characters is sick.
It's pure gold. It is. It's like it's almost
pure gold.
It's almost perfect.
Like, it's like, I love how this movie does exposition. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's like when you can make the first 20 minutes of a movie like so good, like introduce the characters without being fucking boring. You know what I mean? That's just so good.
Exactly. Like you're not like you're giving us the setup to the story, but you're not like. Like you're giving it to us by just showing us the characters, you know what I mean? Like they're in their habitat, you know. They're
exactly you just get to inhabit the world of Scarborough, Aurora, Illinois.
Yeah, it's so well done. It's perfectly done. Really, they really nail that exposition. And again, the first 20 minutes, like the way they like kind of weave in and out of breaking the fourth wall, but like only Wayne and Garth and the murderer do it. is extremely well done. I mean, like obviously it's an early comedy, so it definitely has like a few.
What do you mean early?
Or older is the word I meant to say.
Yeah, older.
Early.
It's not early. It's not early comedies
at all. It's late.
Yeah.
Relatively.
Yeah. What were you gonna say? It's like it's comedy from the 90s, right?
Or like, 92. If we didn't mention that.
Yeah.
My point is that like, as is the case, there's often a few elements that are slightly dated. You know, like it's a little sexist. There's quite a bit of homophobia. Some vague racism in there too. I mean, I guess more than vague in some instances, but like, that sucks, obviously. But there's some films where that is kind of like that's it. You know what I mean? Like that's the vehicle for humor. Whereas this film, that really feels like there are moments of that are a little bit cringy in this film.
Like, what would you specifically say?
I would say one of...
Like, what are you gonna say where they're speaking like fake Cantonese?
No, he's speaking
actually I don't know.
Cantonese.
Is that sorry?
That was real Cantonese.
Well, no, but I'm saying the subtitles didn't match up with what they were saying.
At some point, no.
But that was a joke.
That was a joke. No, it was more. I think just like just certain things that they said to her were vaguely racist. I don't think it was explicitly racist, but just there was some some vague racism in there, but again, not. My point is that it wasn't explicit, and the fact that she was like Asian could have gone a lot worse for a 1992 film is kind of my point. And like, like I think Sphincter Boy is vaguely homophobic as well, if you think about it.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
And then also there was like he at one point. Actually, I think that was actually in a sketch. I'm merging a sketch with the actual film.
He did say Sphincter Boy.
He does say Sphincter Boy, but I think he says like gay boy says what or something in like one of the sketches.
So, homo says what?
Homo says what? That's what it is.
Yeah.
Which is the same idea.
Which is not in the movie.
Not in the movie. Anyway, my point ultimately is like that exists in this movie, but that's kind of
it does exist. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, compared to some other movies that we've done, it's really not that bad.
Exactly. It's like it's baked into the culture more than it's part of the film, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And the culture sucked, but the film doesn't.
Sorry, say that again?
I said it's baked into the culture, and the culture sucked, but the film doesn't, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah, exactly.
But yeah, Crucial Taunt's fucking sick.
Yeah, they wail.
They're, like, so good. Like, I think that they were actually playing. Everyone was doing their own things. I don't know if she was playing bass.
Cassandra was definitely not playing the bass on screen.
Yeah. She was clearly not. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if Tia Carrera can play the bass, but
she was definitely singing.
Yeah, definitely. That was definitely her.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. But all the guys in the band, those were actually playing their things.
Okay, that actually doesn't surprise me because they basically have no lines.
Exactly. They were just
So they were probably actual musicians.
Yeah, exactly. They're just the guys. They're just an actual band. Probably. I'll look more into them for next week.
We'll get that for next week. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, they're sick. It was really good stuff. I was listening on headphones, so it was like really paying attention.
Yeah,
to the
you know, because a
soundtrack.
lot of movies, like if they make a song for a movie, they kind of like phone it in on like the production and shit.
Totally.
But like, you know, they actually like did it properly, man.
Yeah,
it sounded
and
sick.
I wonder how much of that was Mike Myers, because you know it's like the whole character is his character who's like a metalhead. So it's like
exactly.
I wonder, and so music's always been like a big part of the character. So I wonder if he was like, you know, adamant about like the production being good on that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, he was adamant about a lot of aspects of the music. We'll talk about the Bohemian Rhapsody stuff later, but
exactly, yeah. And then Aurora, Illinois, basically is Scarborough, as you're saying. Yeah,
because like originally the character was from Scarborough, I think.
Yeah, which we'll get into in basically 1 second. Like this is our
because Mike Myers is from Scarborough.
Exactly, like
Scarborough, Ontario.
Yeah, so actually, let's fucking get into it. Let's get into the background of Mike Myers and how this character came to be, because it is really
most people. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say most people probably know the SNL sketch, but that's not actually where Wayne's World started off.
Exactly, and
I guess that's where Wayne's World started off, but that's not where Wayne Campbell started off.
Exactly, like that's what I thought. Going into this, before I looked into it, I thought, it's an SNL sketch.
I had been aware that it started like that. There was like
a few
about Wayne's Power Minute and shit like that,
right?
But I didn't know how far back the character went.
Yeah, like it's crazy. So apparently, Mike Myers started doing the Wayne character at parties when he was 11 or 12. In Scarborough. I don't know if we specifically mentioned yet. That Mike Myers.
We said he's from Scarborough, yeah.
Yeah, he was born and raised in
Scarborough. Scarborough, for those who aren't from Ontario or Canada, it is a part of Toronto that's sort of in the east, and it used to be more of a suburb. Now it's sort of more part of the city, but like
it's part of Toronto now. But when he was born there, it was its own place.
It was like a suburb of Toronto, yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly like what Aurora, Illinois is in the film.
It basically was Aurora, Illinois.
Now it's a bit more.
Now it's a bit more.
Deep Scarborough is still a lot like it. Anyway, point being is that's where it was, and he started doing. That's where fucking Wayne is from. Wayne Campbell is from Scarborough, Ontario, but he's a Scarborough boy. Just like you know, a lot of famous Torontonians are from Scarborough these days, huh?
Like who? I mean, there's a few.
The Weeknd.
Oh yeah.
Party Next Door.
Yeah.
Michael Bunting. I guess he's not really a famous person.
Well, yeah, I don't think he's famous outside Toronto, though.
Yeah, exactly. And even then, fucking hardcore Leaf fans, I guess. Maybe not. I don't know.
Wayne Simmons, also.
Wayne Simmons, exactly.
These are all people on the Toronto Maple Leafs, by the way.
Musicians, famous musicians, and Leafs, I guess, are the only people from Scarborough.
Well, I think there's just a lot of people in Scarborough.
Yeah.
So it's like,
yeah.
A bunch of people are going to come from there,
Yeah. So continuing with the extreme Canadiana, I don't know if any of our listeners, I'm sure some of them are familiar with the show, The King of Kensington.
I'm familiar with it.
It's a Toronto classic from like the 70s and early 80s.
Yeah. Set in Kensington Market, presumably.
Exactly. Yeah, it's.
I was commenting. I haven't seen the show in a long time, but I was commenting that the theme song, that's Nassau Street, I think.
Yeah. It's a great little piece of Toronto
history
in a time capsule.
Yeah.
But apparently, when he was a kid, Mike Myers had a couple appearances on The King of Kensington.
Cool.
As well as the other Canadian classic, The Littlest Hobo. It's like so
I've never
Canadian.
actually seen The Littlest Hobo.
I would watch it occasionally. It's about like...
It's like a dog, right?
Yeah, it's sick. It's about a dog who goes around just like, saving people and solving crimes, but the dog doesn't talk. He just goes around being like stoic and chill, but he has like a kid who's his friend.
Okay, cool.
Who he occasionally sees, I think. But anyway... I would watch it when there was nothing else on because it's one of those shows that just like came on and you're like, all right.
Yeah. Like, yeah. I feel like a lot of these shows I saw like when I was younger, like when I was sick.
Exactly.
And watching TV during the daytime, you know what I mean?
Daytime CBC.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if it was CBC or like City or something like that. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Canadian broadcasting.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so after he did the Wayne character on like parties, he actually started doing it on TV. So again, our Toronto listeners who are around will know probably about the City TV show City Limits, which was
I could not. Except in relation to this because I'm too young.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not our generation. It's like you're familiar with Much Music, and I'm sure a lot of people of our generation are familiar with Much Music, which is Canadians MTV.
Basically, yeah.
That show City Limits is basically the precursor. So it's kind of like a music show, late night music show, and
that's where the Wayne character graced the airwaves for the first time.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, exactly.
So I watched a couple of these skits.
He's so
the
young,
character,
man.
like, he is. I find it interesting, the evolution of the character.
Yeah, me too.
Because, like, early on, he's, like, a bit more, like, dopey and, like, he's stupid seeming.
He's more of just like an idiot, in the first incarnation. He's just like a metalhead
and he's
idiot.
Like more of like just a loser and shit.
Yeah, he's just like a loser who like is totally aloof. Like he has no idea, like,
Exactly.
Like the whole point of his character is that he's the cousin of the host and he's always like interrupting the broadcast and fucking shit up.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's super.
And he wants to like have them play Ted Nugent on the program.
Exactly, and one of the running gags is like he gives him like a Ted Nugent tape or something.
Yeah.
It's super interesting though because you learn a lot about the early Wayne character that whether or not it's canon is still fun.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, also his hair color is different.
Well, it's a terrible wig. Like,
yeah,
the wig is so bad in the first one. Like it's the Todd Sesh wig, basically.
Yeah, basically.
But you learn that he worked at Pizza. It just gets so like Wayne is so Canadian and like specifically Ontarian. Like I can't.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so for those of you who aren't from Ontario, Pizza is like a fast food pizza chain in Ontario.
Yeah, it's like a local.
It's all over the province, but like
that's I said Ontario. Yeah, local Ontario.
Yeah.
Pizza joint, fast food pizza joint.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also learn that he's in a metal band called Bludgeon.
Yeah, sick name.
He
plays the drums in this.
Yeah, he says he plays the drums, a little bit of guitar, but mostly drums.
And yeah, well, he only learns one thing on guitar, which is the only thing you ever see him play. Yeah.
But that's the best part about this is you see him learn that lick.
Exactly.
In this show, he's like, "Oh, how do you do that?" Because he sees a guy doing it, but how do you go?
And he's like,
and then the guy,
teaches him.
No
offense, but you're kind of a goof to his guitar player.
So Canadian, and that's kind of the thing I wanted to bring up is like when you watch Wayne's World and you are Canadian, like you can see how much like Mike Myers is holding back a little bit the Canadiana. Like,
that's true. It's like, I feel like there's like so much he desperately wants to put in there, but
and even just like the accent, like the way he talks, like he slips into like.
Well, he talks like somebody from Scarborough did in like the 70s.
Exactly. He slips into it more sometimes. Like more times than other. Like I feel like he probably had to be directed to not do it sometimes.
Say A.
Yeah, or he was like either that.
How many times does he say A in the movie? I wonder.
A couple, I think. A couple.
Yeah.
In these sketches, obviously, all the time because
obviously he's saying A all the time. Right?
He's explicitly Canadian here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the first. Oh, he also mentions Nancy.
Right. I think I heard he was listing a bunch of girls' names, but I think one of them was also Cassandra.
Oh, really? I did not.
Yeah, he didn't go into any detail about her, but he just said he's just listing off people's names, and one of them was Cassandra, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, and it was so funny because he was talking about going to a party later, and he was like, "Yeah, total babes, but no, Nancy, I'm just talking about it. Like I don't mean any of it."
Yeah.
Total babes. But yeah, so that was the first TV appearance, but that wasn't still pre-SNL. He also appeared on CBC. You said you were familiar with this one.
Yeah, so I'd seen a couple of the Wayne's Power Minute sketches, which was this segment that he had on a CBC show called It's Only Rock and Roll.
Yeah, I didn't know. I've never heard of that show.
Well, I'd only heard of that because of Wayne.
Because of Wayne, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a CBC show. And yeah, he does Wayne's Power Minute out of the back of a van. So, we're getting closer to Wayne's World here.
Yeah, and so he's definitely He's definitely a lot closer to the character that's like in the sketches and later in the movie.
Yeah,
I think his hair color is more accurate. He's wearing a black shirt now instead of his flannel.
Exactly. The flannel transfers to Garth.
Yeah, exactly. Garth is not around yet, though.
Yeah, this is all pre-Garth.
He's showing that he's like a little bit of a smarter guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's true. He starts talking about that the one sketch I watched of the Power Minute. He's talking about party, and that's because it's super Canadian because he says party so many times.
Party.
Yeah. Like over and over and over again. But one of the quotes, he's like, and then you have your political parties. The Conservative Party, what? Everyone goes home at 11 and no one gets drunk or pukes or anything?
Yeah.
And then he's like...
the Communist Party, everybody shares one beer?
And he's like, and then the Liberal Party, well, you get the idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, we're obviously not doing it justice, so you guys have to go on YouTube.
Yeah, just watch the sketch.
Just all you have to do is search Wayne Campbell,
Wayne's Power Minute,
Wayne Campbell. It's Only Rock and Roll or Wayne Campbell. City Limits, just great stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think he also talks about he describes the Strat, like the 57 or whatever, the 57 perfect Strat.
I think it was a 65.
Either way, I think
because they mention, or Cassandra mentions in the film that it's pre-CBS, but it's like, but it has the rosewood fingerboard. So it's like a late pre-CBS model.
Yeah, well, basically the rundown that she gives of the guitar in the movie, he gives in this.
Yeah, exactly.
In the CBC show.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is hilarious.
But yeah, she will be mine.
Oh yes,
she will be mine.
She will be mine. So quotable.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Did you take
cash?
We both did. Yeah.
So basically, he does this CBC show, right?
Yeah. And clearly he's talented because he's so young, and he looks like fucking 20 in the first one.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, this is the late 80s?
Well, so the first one's early 80s, and this is 87 as the CBC one. Yeah. So,
so we're getting closer to when the movie is, actually, at this point.
Yeah, exactly. So I think kind of simultaneously with the CBC thing, I don't know exactly the exact timeline, but I think he starts in the mid-80s. He starts at Second City, which is, Toronto's comedy scene, which has birthed all of, Canada's comedians, basically.
Yeah.
Like, every famous Canadian comedian of a certain era that you can think of came from Second City. Like Eugene Levy, Jim Carrey, Catherine O'Hara, Rick Moranis, go on and on and on and on, like all of them. Who else, actually?
John Candy?
John Candy, exactly. I can't believe I forgot John Candy.
Yeah.
Canadians, man, they're really funny in the 80s. I don't know what happened. We don't produce as many comedians anymore.
We probably got a couple. I don't know. I just can't think of them right now.
there are internally famous comedians, and as well they should be because they're hilarious. Like fucking Tall Boys. That show's pretty fucking funny, man.
I don't know if I've ever seen it.
It's a sketch show on CBC.
Okay, maybe I should check it out.
It's pretty funny. Anyway, point being, a lot of Canadians. Second City. That's where Mike Myers went. So after that, he moved to the Second City in Chicago because they're basically like connected. And a lot of the Canadian people eventually moved to Chicago because obviously the States, it's the States.
Yeah. More money down there.
More money, more stuff is going on. And obviously he was going places because he quickly joined the cast of SNL.
Yeah, another Toronto invention, essentially.
Yeah. Dan Aykroyd.
We talked a little bit about SNL about Howard Shore, remember?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's exactly right.
Yeah, we talked about the fact that everybody involved with it initially was basically from Toronto.
Exactly. So, a lot of... I totally forgot Dan Aykroyd, too, But, yeah, so he joins SNL in 1989. And I think he was, like, the first new cast member in, like, 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know. I'm not an SNL, like expert, because I know it's a real fucking, like, cult, like, and SNL, like, historians.
I don't really know that much about it.
But I know a little bit about it, but I don't know about, like, if that's a big deal. Like, 2 years of no new cast members.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
Because I don't know how often they add new cast members.
So he starts doing the Wayne character on SNL, right? And so I think this is where most people probably first saw him. Yeah,
like this is, and again, like, so he gets onto SNL, and Dana Carvey is already on SNL. As I said, he's a big impression guy, right? What did he do besides George Bush? I'm trying to remember. He did a great. Anyway, he had a character that he had auditioned for SNL with, and that he occasionally did in like some capacity, like on the show. That was kind of based on his older brother.
Okay.
Apparently, and this is where Garth came from, essentially. But the way he described his older brother was like just kind of like this weird, like Garth, basically, like this weird kid who was like really good at like fixing stuff and like technology. And he told this story where he like fixed a washing machine with a butter knife. And he was like, and the way he did the impression of it, he was like, "Yeah, I fixed it with a butter knife, and it'll never break again." It was like, it's sad.
Never break again, man.
Yeah, he did the exact, like he did the Garth voice for it.
Right, yeah.
So, but yeah, so when...
We fear change.
We fear change. That's... But yeah, so he when he starts doing Wayne on SNL, he asks Dana to do the sidekick character, and he comes up with...
Yeah, and that's how we get Garth.
Yeah. But yeah, so basically that's where we get into the kind of pre-production. So that's our kind of background on the character. But now, as we mentioned, the sketch is super popular. Popular enough that Lorne Michaels. Have we mentioned Lorne Michaels?
We mentioned Lorne Michaels when we were talking about
right, like you said,
back on the Fly episode when we were talking about Howard Shore.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't know how much we'll get into him. He's an infamous character. I'm going to use the word infamous.
Infamous?
Confidently.
Okay.
Because I think he's both famous for doing SNL and also a bit famous for being incredibly temperamental and like.
Okay.
It's like his way or the highway, right? Because he's run SNL since except for like one season, he's been the arbiter of SNL, like who gets hired, who does what on it. Like he is everything. Like he's
as we were talking about with Howard Shore, it's like he basically was friends with Lorne Michaels when he was a kid, and that's how he became the musical director for the show out of basically nowhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So speaking of that era, the only other film at this time that SNL had produced was the Blues Brothers, which came out in 1980.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that one day. That's definitely some interesting stories behind that one. Sorry?
What do you think of that movie?
What do I think of it? I think it's pretty funny.
Yeah, I think it's pretty. I haven't seen it in a while.
I haven't seen it in a long time, but like I think it's pretty good.
I seem to recall it kind of slows down. Like, it starts off really funny and, like, the same kind of thing. Like, the exposition is really good.
Yeah.
And then it kind of, I don't remember the ending as well. So that could be that.
Well, you don't remember the big car chase?
And
all the cars getting destroyed?
Barely, to be honest.
Okay. That's kind of the highlight of the film.
Fuck. Well, maybe I fell asleep or something.
For a long time, the Blues Brothers held the record for most number of cars destroyed on film.
I did know that. So actually, yeah, that's true. What holds it now? Do you know?
I don't know. Let's find out.
Yeah.
I think we're getting a little bit sidetracked. But,
but that's we got to look that up. Point of all that though is that Blues Brothers was wildly successful. So I guess I don't know like why Lorne Michaels waited so long to do another one.
Apparently, Fast and the Furious, one of them. I'm not sure.
Obviously, should have guessed that. Really should have guessed that one. But yeah, I don't really know why Lorne Michaels waited so long, because Blues Brothers was super successful, like at the box office.
Maybe they're just looking for the right movie.
Yeah, so
they also had Blues Brothers too.
That's true. No, but that was later. That was after.
Oh, that was later. I can't remember when that was. Yeah,
that was like late '90s, I think.
Oh, okay.
Wasn't it? Or is Blues Brothers?
Sorry, there's Blues Brothers 2000. That's what it was called.
I was thinking, is that a different movie from Blues Brothers 2? But that's the second one.
That's what the second one is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay, yeah. It was quite a bit later, actually.
Yeah, it was
1998. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so I guess maybe they were just waiting for the right sketch, and Wayne's World
they found
was
it. It was Wayne's World.
Wayne's World. And Wayne's World was wildly successful. We actually didn't really do any basic facts. We kind of barreled through all that, but like
the film was
the film. The film ultimately, which we'll talk about more next week, and we'll talk about this all more next week. But I just wanted to mention because this film was so successful. Like I just found it interesting that like from 1980 to 1992. They made nothing, and then after Wayne's World was super successful, as was Blues Brothers. Like I think like a switch flipped, and they made like 5 movies between Wayne's World and like the year 2002, and only one of them was not horrible, not including Wayne's World 2, because I think that's a little bit.
So what are they?
All right. Are you familiar with It's Pat?
No. Maybe I shouldn't be.
It looks so bad. Like,
I don't know anything about this movie.
Like the sketch definitely wouldn't fly today because I don't know. It's not transphobic. Like parts of the movie, I think, became transphobic, but the actual like sketch isn't necessarily like or queer phobic. It's hard to say because the character Pat is like a sexually ambiguous person, like a gender ambiguous person. And the whole point of the joke is that like the audience doesn't know what sex Pat is.
Okay.
And I think the point is of the character is supposed to be that like Pat knows, right? Like it is something, like it is definitively one or the other.
Right.
But the point of the joke is that you can never tell.
Okay.
And I think that turns transphobic at some points, and
I see.
You know what I mean? Like, obviously, you can understand.
It seems like a bit of a thin joke.
It is a thin joke, and they turn it into a movie. I think it has a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes or something like that.
Really?
It got pulled after.
Well,
2
allegedly,
weeks.
It made $60,000 at the box office.
Yeah, because it got pulled after 2 weeks because it was so bad and nobody liked it, and it was just
surprised it got finished.
Yeah, like one of the reviews, something was like, if it had been 1 minute longer, it would have been too tedious to keep going. Like it
would have been too what?
Too tedious to keep watching.
Right. Yeah, seems real bad. But okay, so which other ones? Okay, so Wayne's World 2 was pretty good.
Yeah, Coneheads they made, which was fine, but not great. I mean, it's not.
Yeah, I haven't seen the film.
The sketch again is more worth it than the.
Right. Okay. What else we got?
There was that one. There's one with Will Ferrell. Oh, yeah, Night at the Roxbury.
I've not seen any of these movies.
Exactly. Stuart Saves His Family. That's the one where Al Franken did it. And that one was directed by Harold Ramis. So maybe it's funny. I don't know. We like Harold Ramis. But I've not seen it.
Yeah.
So yeah, so they did so many movies in the 90s for some reason. The Ladies' Man.
Sorry?
The Ladies' Man, Superstar, Night at the Roxbury. Like, all these movies, like, you never heard of, right?
Yeah,
they did,
I don't know.
So, yeah. Anyway, we'll talk more about, like, the aftermath next week. But
yeah,
that's
Wayne's World 2 and everything.
Yeah. But yeah, so that just kind of confused me. Just that they like, Wayne's World was really good. So was Blues Brothers. Anyway.
Well, maybe they made the right choice by waiting so long to make Wayne's World.
I mean, they did. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe they just...
It's just, I think you gotta wait for the right idea.
Yeah, they didn't want to make the right choice again? I don't know.
Yeah.
So when Lorne Michaels decided that they were going to produce this movie... he got, obviously, Mike Myers wrote the script, but he wrote it with the writing duo, the couple writing duo, Bonnie and Terry Turner. If you're not familiar with, I'm sure you're familiar with their work.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, they created the shows Third Rock from the Sun and That 70s Show, and they obviously have worked on tons of other things as well, but those are their biggest, credits. So they helped write the script, but I think most of it is Mike Myers. I think.
Yeah, you can really tell that he's put a lot of himself into the script.
Exactly. Like this is his this is his first character, right? You know.
Yeah, exactly. And he's kind of this has been his thing for so long. You know what I mean? Exactly.
Yeah. This is his project. So
exactly. Which this may have caused some issues with the next person we're going to talk about.
Well, exactly. That's kind of I think that's the basis for the whole beef we're going to talk about next week.
So this film was directed by Penelope Spheris, who I guess most people know from having done a series of rockumentaries about metal and punk and stuff called The Decline of Western Civilization. Yeah. So you can kind of get what perspective it takes.
Yeah, well, I've
actually seen her. Yeah, because they're kind of poking fun at the one that I've seen, which was the second one, which was about metal.
Yeah.
Was just kind of spending the whole time poking fun basically at how these guys are such fucking idiots, all these metal bands.
Right.
Yeah.
I've not seen any of them, so.
Some of it's kind of funny. They interview a couple people who come off well, but I don't know, when they're interviewing like a lot of like those like, you know, glam metal guys who are just basically like, you know, we're just getting wasted and partying all the time, you know?
Yeah. Well, the Spinal Tap people.
Basically Spinal Tap. I mean, they interview like actually Ozzy Osbourne comes off okay. Which is kind of interesting.
That is interesting.
He's like way less fried than he is like later when you see him.
Yeah. Well, so
because obviously now it's like
when
really
was it
it's in the late 80s, I think.
Right. Yeah, well, there's some super early interviews where he's super fried, and then his like later interviews where he's just like.
So this was 1987 to 1988, which
right.
was
in his lucid
the decline
years.
of Western civilization Part 2, the Metal Years, which is the most relevant to this movie, I would say.
Yeah, right. So that's basically that movie got her this job.
Yeah, I thought it's worth a watch.
Yeah. Is there any live footage? Like, is there like live music in it?
I think there's some footage from like shows and stuff, but mostly interviews.
Right. Because I was just wondering if she had experience like shooting a live band, you know, like because there's, you know, they do.
Yeah, I think she's done that. Yeah.
A lot of music filming in this movie. Like a lot of live performances in this movie.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of fucking Crucial Taunt.
A lot of Crucial Taunt, and then the one Alice
who
Cooper.
live in the most insane loft I've ever seen.
Yeah, like she's talking.
That
about
was hard to believe that loft existed.
That's true. That is the hardest thing to believe. Is like that she's not made it big, but she's living in this loft. Like no fucking way. And she seems to live there alone. What?
Way.
No way. Way. She like fucking. Yeah. She lives there alone, like seemingly, because her drummer calls her, so it's not like the whole band lives there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And she says my loft, and it's like I don't know, man.
It was huge.
Like yeah, that was.
And she had like recording equipment and shit in there. Actually, interesting note. I noticed that she had a tape recorder in there, which is an Atari MX 5050, which we have used.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What have we used it for?
It's the 8-track tape recorder we use on Goat Legs.
Oh, sick.
She has the later model. I have the earlier one, but yeah.
Oh, of course. The 90s model?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting. But yeah, no, like, her loft is insane, and I wish I lived there.
Yeah, I know, me too. It's like, fuck, that's the coolest place ever. Like,
maybe I should move to Aurora.
Yeah. Actually, I think I've been like I played a punk show in a basement somewhere around Aurora.
Yeah.
Like
cool.
I seem to remember.
Did you see Wayne and Garth?
Well, that's the thing. I seem to remember when I was there having a conversation with Gilchrist about like this is where Wayne's World was.
It was where it's set.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it is Scarborough. Like
So if you've ever been to Scarborough, which I'm sure you have,
if you're listening to this,
it's that.
Likely most of our listeners are from Ontario.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're talking about the director. So she was chosen for this documentary.
She was chosen basically because of her, like, you know, being involved in like the rock and metal scene, I assume. Basically.
Yeah. And she kind of says this, like the way she was talking about it, she seemed to insinuate this kind of revitalized her career, like beef aside. Like,
sorry?
She seemed to think that this kind of like revitalized her career, like beef aside.
Yeah. Well, because it was incredibly successful.
Exactly. But yeah, apparently it was between this and she was going to do a doc about, she said, quote, a mental hospital or something like that.
Yeah, so this was probably the better choice.
This is, a little bit less...
Although I'm sure that, you know, she didn't necessarily... As we're going to talk about more next week, there are probably aspects of this film that she did not enjoy doing.
No, I think she probably enjoyed having done this movie more than she enjoyed doing this movie.
Exactly, yeah. But we'll talk about that all next week.
Exactly.
But needless to say, her and Mike Myers had a bit of a beef.
Yeah, there's beef. Beef exists. A lot of beef exists post this movie. And they cast Rob Lowe shortly after this.
Okay, yeah, Rob Lowe is excellent in this movie.
He's so good.
He's so good.
And I mean,
he's so bad. Like, he's so terrible.
Yeah, he's so terrible.
He's just the greasiest, like, fucking guy I've ever heard of. Just like that when he's in the meeting with the arcade guy.
Oh my god! And he's so
he's
good
like,
at it, which is almost creepy. That
you know,
he's so good.
I didn't know that.
Like when they turn him into like when they're like make him think it was his idea, you know, like that.
Exactly.
Whole
Yeah.
Just
It's so gross. It's disgusting.
He's almost suspiciously good at being slimy.
Yeah, I know.
And it's just because he.
But like, I mean,
look.
Rob Lowe seems like a genuinely like decent person. I don't know, but like.
I don't really know, but like, yeah, he's like now he's definitely more known for comedic stuff because he's done, you know, Parks and Rec, and he was the lead of his own comedy show. That had some pretty funny moments, but back then, you know, I don't think he had done any comedy, and I think he had just had a scandal, like a sex tape or something, a sex tape scandal.
Oh, yeah?
Probably something that nowadays, I don't know anything about it because I don't care, but like, I'm sure nowadays it would be like nothing, but back then it was a scandal. So apparently this was good for his career, but he had recently hosted SNL, and he was really good at it, according to Lorne Michaels, so they cast him.
But yeah, no, like, one of the best casting decisions in this movie was Rob Lowe. Sure. I think he's the perfect villain.
He is, and he's this perfect villain.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing about Rob Lowe is like I think he can be a villain or a good guy, you know.
Yeah, he's got that
both.
kind of face, you know, that you
exactly.
It's both trustworthy and untrustworthy depending on what he's saying.
Exactly, yeah.
And how he says it. So, I mean, that means he's a good actor. He's a good actor.
Yeah.
And then, as we mentioned, there's Tia Carrera, who's
who does all the singing for the character in the movie.
Yeah, as we mentioned, she's so good. As this character.
Have you ever seen the show Relic Hunter?
No. Is she in it?
This is the show that she was on, his Canadian show that basically she was like an archaeologist that like
that's sick.
She was kind of like this like almost Indiana Jones type character, but like she would
awesome.
Like try to like, you know, get stolen artifacts and like return them to like you know, their rightful owner.
Like a reverse Indiana Jones.
Yeah, exactly.
That's sick.
But yeah, it was all filmed in Toronto.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And more Canadiana. She's not Canadian. She's from...
No, she's from Hawaii.
Hawaii, yeah.
Yeah.
And she played the older sister in Lilo and Stitch, which...
Did she?
Yeah. It's not relevant at all, but I did not know that, and I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have known that, because obviously it's voiced, right? So
yeah, exactly. But now that I'm, like...
Yeah, now
totally
that makes sense, yeah.
Now that I think about it, it's absolutely... But, yeah. But yeah, so she was cast. I saw in an interview that she was like, yeah, had Mike not written the character as being this Asian character, they would have cast a white blonde hair,
blue-eyed, blonde-haired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she was like, it's cool that like he wrote it like that because it meant like she was like, yeah, so that you need this. You need an Asian woman who can sing and act. And it's like, that's
Did
me,
she
baby.
actually speak Cantonese?
I don't know.
Right.
Maybe.
Because, I mean, I guess Mike Myers had to learn just that little bit.
I was reading... Now, I haven't backed this up. I'll look for it next week.
She's of Filipino descent, from what I understand.
She said she's of Chinese and Filipino descent. She said a few things. But I read somewhere that Mike Myers actually knew Cantonese already. And like,
what?
Yeah.
What?
And like just played up the accent for this.
Yeah, he can speak Cantonese. That's fucking ridiculous. That's such a weird fact.
I'm not saying that's true because I only read this from one source that I don't fully trust. So I'm gonna try and verify this for next week. But tentatively, Mike Myers already knew how to speak Cantonese.
That's incredibly impressive.
Yeah. But we'll check that in. So that's gonna be our quiz. Our quiz for next week.
Yeah.
It is a ridiculous. Like I don't like it's one of those languages that like I'm never gonna try and learn that because
no, exactly.
No.
Yeah.
Unless of course the global order shifts so that I have to.
Yeah, let's not talk about that. Although they wouldn't make you learn Cantonese.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, what am I thinking? Anyway, so yeah, Tia Carrera's cast because. According to her, she's the only one for the role, and according to everybody else, she walked in and everybody was like, "Yeah." Obviously.
Well, it's like, yeah, clearly it's her. Like, I mean, she wails, man.
Yeah, she fucking wails.
Yeah.
According to Penelope, the director, she said when she came on board,
Tia Carrero, this is.
No, the director.
Oh, she said when she herself came on board. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. When she joined the project, she was talking about like kind of the point of the project that they were at. And she was just talking about how like they were bizarrely fixated on like Wayne's house and like the neighborhood.
Wayne was?
Well, just the team.
Or
like,
sorry, I mean not
Mike.
Wayne. I mean Mike.
Yeah, same person.
I think
really.
Mike probably wanted it to look like Scarborough.
Well, that's the thing. I think, and kind of what we were talking about is that first 20 minutes is so.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
exactly when they go to the gasworks and they go to Stan Mikita's, like
exactly. Like,
by the way, Stan Mikita's hilarious joke.
Oh yeah, that is a good one. Do you want to explain it for those not?
Yeah. Well, I guess for those of you who don't live in Canada, there's this coffee shop chain called Tim Hortons. Which you may have heard of.
I'm sure you've heard of it. I'm sure
it's so weird to like explain what Tim Hortons is.
Yeah, I'm sure most of our listeners have heard of Tim Hortons.
But yeah, so anyway, Tim Horton was a hockey player on the Toronto Maple Leafs in like the 60s. And basically Stan Mikita was a player on and so the coffee shop is like Tim Hortons is named after the hockey player. Anyway, Stan Mikita is a hockey player that was on the Blackhawks. And so then they made a coffee shop named after Stan Mikita, which is it's a play on Tim Hortons.
It's gotta be.
It's gotta be. It's like
that's the donut shop the coffee and donut shop they go to is named after a hockey player. Like, come on.
And they just swapped out a hockey player from Toronto from one from
Chicago.
Chicago.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so that again, it makes sense that they were fixated on like what the house would look like and what the neighborhood would be like, you know.
Yeah, no, I think it's really like important.
Yeah. So then there's the Bohemian Rhapsody thing that we mentioned earlier. So do you want to tell that story?
Which one?
Well, okay, so I'll tell the first bit is like so. Mike talks about like.
So we're gonna talk about this here, not in the later one.
Well, this is where it happens.
Oh, so it happened. Okay, yeah, go for
it. Like so when they were writing it, Mike Myers he tells like a story. He's like, yeah, the Bohemian Rhapsody scene is like that's 100% drawn from my life because he was talking about I would drive around Scarborough with my brothers and friends. And we would do
they pop a Queen cassette in the
exactly, and they would do the exact scene like down to like people had their own parts that they would sing like
yeah, classic.
So he was like, this has to be the song in it because this is the character.
This was apparently a bone of contention with like the studio too.
Yeah, well,
because they were like, oh, it's gonna be like a Motley Crue song, right?
I think didn't they want Guns N' Roses?
Oh, was it Guns N' Roses? Sorry, no, not Motley Crue. Guns N' Roses.
I could have been. Regardless, they wanted like a more heavy metal band than Queen.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but Mike was like, no, it has to be Bohemian Rhapsody, which I think is also interesting because like the song was like 10 years old or whatever when the movie came out, 15 years old. I'm not sure, but like So it was interesting that they chose that, and also that's probably why the studio wanted to have a more recent song like Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, like I think, if you listen to what's his name, Brian May talk about it, I think that like that song, like really gave Queen kind of a resurgence, specifically.
Yeah, no, it really did. Like that song hit the top 40 again because of this movie.
Exactly. Like this movie basically gave Queen a new lease on life for their post Freddie Mercury. Because Freddie Mercury is the first sadly time passed away.
When I first saw this movie, it's the first time I heard the song, and I think it's the first time I ever heard Queen.
I think probably for our generation, that's the case for like most of us.
And I was obsessed with it, the song afterwards.
How could you not be?
It's like, yeah.
Like, especially when you're like, I don't know, when you're a little bit younger, like obviously it still holds up, but it's like it's so fun.
Yeah, it's such a good song. It's like all the little parts. It's so good. On a slightly sadder note, the movie came out just after Freddie Mercury had passed away.
Yeah.
And Freddie Mercury was like, he was sick and he was I think he was in and out of the hospital at the time. when this movie was being made, right?
Yeah.
And apparently, you know, to get permission to use the song, they managed to get that scene done and show it to Freddie, and he thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
And he signed off on it to have the song in the movie, which was cool.
Yeah, which is great that he like personally signed off on it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is, yeah, it's so sad. Like, obviously, like, imagine like Queen isn't one of those bands where it's like, I don't actually listen to that often, but every time you listen to it, you're like, oh yeah, Freddie Mercury is the greatest ever.
He fucking wails.
Like, there's almost nobody better at doing what he does than Freddie Mercury. Like, he is truly
think anybody
a god at being Freddie Mercury. It's unbelievable. So it's like it's so interesting. And then obviously there's that funny tie-in where that Mike Myers loves to talk about, where he played the record executive in the movie Bohemian Rhapsody.
I haven't actually seen that movie.
Me neither, because I've heard a lot of bad things about it as well.
Yeah,
but
I've heard that it was just really meh.
I heard that it was really meh, but I also heard that it like explicitly avoided talking about the fact that he was gay.
Oh, that's a little weird.
Yeah, and I think like
I mean, maybe it's because he was so private about it.
Maybe I think.
Yeah.
Well, again, I don't want to get into it because like I don't actually know anything. I've heard like we're not talking about that movie,
I can't really comment on that.
Exactly, like that's a whole other fucking conversation. That when we do that movie, we'll talk.
I haven't even seen that movie, so
exactly.
I can't really comment on it.
We have no opinion.
Yeah,
no valid opinion on that movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they got Bohemian Rhapsody on the fucking on the okay of Freddie Mercury, which is fucking sick.
That's cool.
So.
Yeah.
According to
and also cool of Freddie to be like, you know, I'm like in the hospital, but I'm gonna check out this, you know.
Yeah,
I'm gonna take the time to like, you know, personally okay this.
Yeah, exactly. Super cool. And I mean, like, yeah, it's funny stuff. So according to she was saying that she did like a lot of the world building because they were super focused on like the script. I don't necessarily know like how true that is per se.
Why do you say that?
Well, just because she also said that like they were so focused on the like, you know, the house and the
well, I think it's probably like different aspects of it, right?
Yeah, I think she was mostly talking about like production, because she was talking about like how she had to like how she put together the donut shop basically.
Right. Yeah.
So like obviously it was Mike Myers' idea, but like the actual like bringing it together, apparently she
bring it to life. Yeah.
Was a lot of. She said she did a lot of that.
Yeah. And it looked great.
It did. Like, it was a really like, this movie's really well directed. Like, you can't.
Yeah. Yeah. Really.
Like, even if there are some moments where it's like some question, like when it slows down, there are some. Its lowest points are even just kind of like that's just.
But its lowest points are so good.
Exactly, and its lowest points are like the result of it being what it is. You know what I mean? It's not like it fails. It's just the fact that it's like a film based off of a sketch. That it's like every film that's based off of a sketch kind of like has that low point when it has to force to do plot and not do sketch.
Exactly. But yeah, you know. Still quality.
Well, basically, so yeah, we've got up to filming because it's basically they've already got everything. They've got the script. They've got the actors are SNL people. Like hiring other actors is not hard because they're not huge roles.
Yeah, and we got a really good cast in this movie. Yeah, we've kind of like everybody we've mentioned. We've been like, oh, they were awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's because they were. It's like. And like some of the smaller roles too were really well done. Like
like that producer guy. I forget what that actor's name is, but he's you know been in tons of stuff. Great character actor.
And also the donut shop guy.
Yeah, that guy James
Ed O'Neill.
Ed O'Neill, yeah, Ed O'Neill.
Ed O'Neill, yeah.
Guy from Married with Children and more recently Modern Family.
Yep.
He's hilarious.
Yeah, it's such a weird character.
Such a weird character, but I love
yeah,
it.
also Alice Cooper.
Oh,
in the movie as himself.
Yeah.
And his whole band. That's his actual band.
Yeah. Yeah, and apparently he is a nerd like that, allegedly. Like, obviously not to that degree of like...
I heard he played D&D.
Yeah. So did Mike Myers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I wonder if they played D&D together.
Yeah, you know. Maybe. But yeah, so It's kind of funny. Like, they made this movie basically when SNL was in the off season, so it was like scheduled for like the summer.
Okay, so they had like a very specific like schedule that they had to get the movie done in.
Yeah, and it was shot in 34 days.
Jeez, that's a lot.
The last scene was with Dana Carvey. And after he finished the last shot, he immediately, without taking off his makeup, he got in a limo on a flight and then went to New York to go shoot SNL. Straight from the fucking shooting.
Yeah, okay, that's kind of interesting to think about in the context of what we're going to talk about next week with all the sort of drama and beef.
I know next week's going to be great, so that's kind of
yeah. So I feel like, but once again, I feel like having such a stressful schedule like that is going to definitely accentuate any of that.
Any tension, exactly. Any tension that is experienced on set is going to be like doubled when you're on such a time constraint because everybody's fucking tense.
Exactly.
But yeah.
But that doesn't come across in the final product.
Yeah, exactly.
The final product stands as excellent. Excellent.
Oh yeah, it absolutely does.
Yeah, despite any time constraints that we had to do here.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll talk more about that next week.
Yeah, production next week, yeah. So we'll but this week, before we close off, we got a party time. We got a party time for you.
Party time?
Yep. It's excellent.
Hello and welcome to 6 Degrees of Star Trek. This is the segment where we talk about the connections between this film and Star Trek.
It's going to be an interesting one, very SNL insular movie.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't know if any of these really go through SNL.
Interesting, all right. Well, I guess it's only the production and then the two leads.
Yeah, well, there are a couple people, but anyway, let's start with a direct connection here.
Okay.
This is somebody who's been in this and in Star Trek, and that is Mike Haggerty, who plays sort of the guy that runs the cable station. He's that guy with the mustache who gets fired later in the film. He's like, I'm going to file a grievance with the union.
Oh, yeah, that guy.
Yeah, you've seen him in so many things. He's been kind of everywhere. But
totally.
He's been in 2 episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation.
Oh, really? What episodes? Well, is he a human?
I think he's a Klingon. Let me double check.
Because he's definitely doesn't seem like the kind of human that would be in Star Trek, based on all the other characters I can think of him,
Okay, yeah, and one of them, he's definitely a Klingon. So he plays Captain Larg in a 1991 episode called Redemption Part 2. And he plays Skoran in the 1994 episode Thine Own Self.
That sounds familiar. That name and episode title sounds familiar.
Yeah, are you still doing the Next Gen? You still watching Next Gen?
I've slowed down,
but
yeah, I'm still.
You still plowing through?
I'm still, picking away at it.
Right. I mean, there's some slow parts, definitely.
Oh yeah, well,
definitely certain parts of it are not as good as others.
It's a long show, so it's to be expected.
But okay, and now we have another connection here. This is a 2-step.
All right.
So we have in this movie we have Mike Myers, obviously.
Obviously.
Plays Wayne. Wayne also. Sorry, I keep calling him Wayne.
I know, really, he's fucking because he is Wayne.
I mean, he's also fucking Austin Powers.
He is. It's true.
Which is actually funny because when I was Googling that, I accidentally spelled Austin with an O.
Austin.
Because I can't not now.
Yeah, I know, me too. More Leafs.
What we got? So, in Austin Powers, there was a cameo by Christian Slater, who played one of the easily distracted guards. This is the first Austin Powers, by the way.
Right.
And as we've mentioned, more than once, Christian Slater is in Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country.
It's true.
as a communications officer.
How does he have a big role in that movie?
No, it's tiny.
Yeah. It's like
he's a tiny role in both the movies we just mentioned.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so the next one is... Sorry?
I said, but he's there.
Yeah. The next one is kind of interesting, because it's like... It's kind of a gateway into a bunch of connections.
Okay, go on.
So, in this film, we have Lara Flynn Boyle, who plays Wayne's crazy ex-girlfriend.
Yeah. I feel like we've talked about her not a number of times. We've talked about her before, haven't we?
Yeah, so I mean, maybe. It might have been a connection to this same thing. But anyway, she was in a show called Twin Peaks, who, I don't know if you've seen it. Very interesting show.
I've never finished it, actually, but...
You've never finished it?
Nope.
But there are a lot of connections between this show and Star Trek.
We've gone through it a few times, yeah.
Yeah, so we have Ray Wise, who has been... sorry, what was his name in the show again? He was Leland in the show, and he's been in an episode of Star Trek Voyager in 1998 called Hope and Fear.
Oh, yeah.
And he's been in an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation called Who Watches the Watchers.
Oh, yeah. Both. Yeah, I'm familiar with those episodes.
Also in Twin Peaks is a guy named Benjamin Bamer, who, in Twin Peaks, plays Benjamin Horn. And he has been in 3 episodes of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. The Siege, The Circle, and Homecoming as Lee Nollis.
Oh, so a recurring role.
Exactly.
Sick.
And also, finally, we have Mädchen Amick. I think that's how you say that. She plays Shelley Johnson in Twin Peaks. And in Star Trek, in an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation in 1989, in the episode The Dauphin, she played a teenage girl.
That was her big break, I'm sure.
I'm sure, wasn't that long before Twin Peaks.
I mean, I'm sure it helped. Yeah. Teenage
girl. Yeah, same year actually.
There you go.
But yeah, that's a bunch of connections right there.
Yeah, that's a pretty good list. I mean, I'm surprised that there was even one direct. To be honest, so this is not really the most.
Oh, I mean, the thing is, it's the era, right? That
it's
it kind of makes sense that like early '90s. There's a lot of crossover with Star Trek.
Yeah, but exactly. But this is not like this is not the salt of the earth type.
No, but once again, like that guy, Mike Haggerty. Is that what is that his name?
Yeah, Mike Haggerty.
I closed my
Haggerty. I guess he's pretty.
Yeah, Mike Haggerty, but he's a salt of the earth type guy.
Yeah,
he often plays roles like that.
On his Wikipedia page, the second sentence is he is known for playing comedic blue collar workers.
Yeah, that's his definitely type, and he's from Chicago, Illinois. Interestingly.
Oh, very interesting.
Which makes sense because the film is in and around Chicago.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's our Star Trek connections for this week.
That's
Hopefully
our Star Trek
connections.
Yeah, well, they were good ones, so how could you not? So I guess that is our episode for this week. But, as we mentioned, there's a lot more fucking Wayne's.
There's a lot more coming out next week. We're going to talk a lot more about the production. Probably a little bit more about Canada.
Oh, for sure, a lot more about Canada.
This film is so Canadian.
It is,
but yet not.
Well, not being at all Canadian, it's aggressively Canadian.
Yeah, it's secretly Canadian.
Yeah, which is great. I love it.
Okay, I'd like to give a shout out to all our listeners in New Zealand.
Ooh, that's
hi to all the Kiwis out there.
Fuck yeah, that's a new one.
That's a new one, yeah.
That's great. Welcome and thank you.
Welcome to Crank It Commentaries.
Yes.
Excellent.
Crank It.
Crank It Commentaries. Excellent. All right. Well, all right, man.
All right. Well, that's
all right. Let's all right. Let's just. I think this is the end here. I guess we'll see y'all next week.
We'll see you next week for another one.
Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy? Caught in a landslide, no escape from reality. Open your eyes. look up to the skies and see. I'm just a poor boy, I need no sympathy, because I'm easy come, easy go, little high, little low. Any way the wind blows doesn't really matter to me. To me. Mama just killed a man.